Good evening and welcome to Inner Life. It's the first of its kind for a Wednesday. I have been asked to assist with some ecology and I'm here ready, charged to go. I ask that you ask those persons who are supposed to be a part of the live for 5 just to come online now. Those persons who are online, I ask that you send the link and have others join. This evening, we're going to be looking just at a little crash course on ecology. We'll be coming from, of course, the CSEC syllabus, and I think we are coming from objective 2.2 onwards. So we're supposed to get, I think, up to 3.4. We're going to be starting off the day's event with some definition as is outlined by the syllabus, and we're going to be looking at human and social biology as well as straight biology. We want to ensure that those persons who are doing human and social biology, you understand that we're going to be covering from your syllabus. I am going to be reading the objectives from the syllabus as is outlined there, so that you will be assured that we are pretty much in tune with you. I'm going to be starting off with some questions, some definition. As usual, I'm not going to be feeding you everything. Of course, I'm going to be assisting you with what you know. And of course, I'll be learning from you as much as you will be learning from me. Now, if you're joining from Jamaica, I do welcome you. I'm very happy that you're here with me. If you're joining me from other areas in the Caribbean, like Guyana, who they are usually here with us. If you're joining from Trinidad and Tobago, I welcome you as well. They are usually with us. And there are some persons from out of the USA that they are usually here with us. I'm not too sure if we have anyone from any other Caribbean island, but if you're from another Caribbean island, I'd love if you could identify your island here so that, of course, we can give you the salute you so deserve. Now, this is a learning community that seeks to formalize that relationship between other students from other Caribbean islands who are, of course, sitting this CSEC examination. Now, we want to ensure that we understand that this is a big community, and who knows, someday you might be my co-worker, someday they might be your co-worker. So we would love to have persons from right across the Caribbean joining. We'd love to have some teachers joining as well to, of course, strengthen the result of what we seek to establish an intellectual biological community where we can make the sciences grow across the Caribbean and, of course, eventually the entire world. So we're going to be looking at, of course, some definitions. I'm going to go to your syllabus now. I'm going to be giving you these definitions, and I'm going to ask you as much as possible to see how best you can answer these definitions. Now, some of these are things that you would have known for some persons who are in grade 11, 6th form, so on. And depending if you started the syllabus at grade 9, this might very well be a walk in the park for you. For some persons, they are just starting the syllabus. For some persons, they would have started September, October, so on and so forth, depending on what your situation is like wherever you are. But for those persons who have not started the syllabus, I am here for you and I'm not going to be leaving you. For those persons who have already started the syllabus, we're going to need your assistance to get through here. I really don't want to sound like that voice that you'll be hearing echoing, and you're going to be falling asleep. I really don't want that. I did promise to put out a video today on genetics, to be specific, test cross. The video was done, but there's some problem with the audio, hence I was a little late in coming on just now because I was trying to sort out my audio. The internet, there's an issue with the bandwidth and all of that, so I'm having that challenge, and of such I had a little issue joining, but I decided whether or not I was going to be late or early. I gave you my word, and of course I must be here with you. So again, I'm going to ask you to ask those persons to join, those persons who are not with us as yet. Please send the link, share the link, send the link, share the link, send the link, share the link. And for those persons who are watching in distant land, who are not subscribed to my channel as yet, I do invite you to subscribe to the channel and of course follow us as we continue to put out videos to strengthen the CXC resolve. I know that there are some persons who are still out of touch with what is happening, but of course, as much as possible, we're putting the content there to assist you. We go with the syllabus, so we ask that you follow the syllabus. I can't say that we are following like a train would follow a track, because from time to time, depending on what is happening on the page, we might go to something in the back, we might go to something in the front. But I can assure you that now we're putting out all the genetic crosses so that you will be able to have adequate time to practice. So starting with the test cross, we're going to go inheritance of sex, we're going to go dominance, of course, we're going to look at the full gamut, we're going to be looking at the pedigree chart and all that. All these videos will be presented in animation. So of course, you'll be able to follow step by step what we're doing in the cross. So I said I did do the video today, but there are some problem with the audio, and I'm going to have that resolved. And once it's resolved this evening, definitely I'm going to post it this evening. If it is not resolved this evening, I'm going to be premiering the video tomorrow morning at about 6. So you get up early and the video will be there waiting on you. So I'm waiting on other persons to join. I am ready, and here we go. My first question, I want you to tell me, what do you understand from the term habitat? I also want to understand, I want you to tell me what you understand from the term niche, habitat and niche. Think about those. There are a lot of words that we're going to be looking at as we get going. I want to know what, of course, is a species. When we talk about species, usually ends with an S. A species versus a population. What's that? We want to look at what is a community versus a ecosystem. So all these are words that we want to look at. So let's go again. I want to know what's what you consider habitat to be. I want to understand what's the niche. When we speak of a niche of an organism, what's that? We want to know what's a species, and also we want to know what, of course, is a population. Now, Amoy Lawrence is saying habitat is where an organism live. That's a wonderful definition there. I usually just add where an organism live or is found, because usually we don't say that a plant live anywhere. It is usually found near to the seashore or found inland and that type of thing. So I'm going to be coming up with a whole lot of definition. Hi, Louis. I'm going to be coming up with a lot. So there we have it for habitat. But what's the niche? When I did environmental science, I told myself, I hope you won't tell yourself that the niche is probably one of the hardest things to define. The niche. What's a niche of an organism? All right, so we have habitat there, and we need to get the definition for species. We need to get the definition for population. We need to get the definition for community. So we're going to be rolling out, of course, with a number of definitions so that as soon as we get sailing, and these things are coming pretty much from the syllabus. These are not words that I coined for myself. They are coming from the syllabus. If you allow me to read, I'll tell you exactly what the syllabus is saying. The syllabus is saying that, all right, we're supposed to distinguish between the following pairs of terms. So we're supposed to be able to form a definition, a distinction between abiotic and abiotic factor, niche and habitat, population and community, species and population. Now, ecology, of course, is a study. We're supposed to look at what ecology is. We need to know what's an environment. That bit we need to know. So a little definitions here to do, not much. They're not so hard if you ask me. I think these are nice and just the ones that you would have loved to cover because you would have looked at these somewhere, primary GSAT research somewhere. Must say a special even to all those persons who are joining me and the persons who are always here with me, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, or Wednesday. This is our first Wednesday show. And of course, we are going to be having a bang here. So the show must have a buzz. So we're going to be leaving here today learning some new things. So we're looking at ecology, and ecology is the study of living things and their environment. We're looking at how living things interact with each other and, of course, the environment. What do you have there for me? Do you have the definitions? So Claudian Carr, she's here. She said niche is the position or role of an organism. Of course, most persons would define the niche to be the role or, of course, the position of an organism. But when you're supposed to ask some student, what does that mean? If you ask me, probably I tell you I don't know. Of course not, I know what niche means. So niche from textbook is that it is the position or role of an organism? If you ask me, it is just about what the organism does within its domain. All right, so we could look at a lot of things. We could look at probably the insects. We could say probably they are chief pollinators. We could say that they are pests to human and their crop. All right, so what is it that these organisms are doing in their domain? That is what we refer to as their niche, their role, what's their position. You could look at the earthworm and say the earthworm, of course, is feeding on detritus, of course, helping with aeration in the soil and helping to see how best it can get on the nutrient cycle as the decomposers work as after it would have worked on, of course, detritus. So, of course, those are two good definitions to start out, habitat. So now we have definitions. So we have two definitions, but we are supposed to make the distinction. So to make the distinction for your exam, you couldn't just write two definitions. You would not have completed answering the question. So we're going to write, Amo is going to say what she has to say, while, and then Claudia and Cara is going to say what she has to say, and then we would have done the distinction. This is that, while that is that. So let us get practicing with that. So now that we have the definition, I want us to write the distinction now. Tell me the difference now. Using the definition that you have there, tell me the difference between habitat and niche. And that's exactly what the syllabus is asking for. The syllabus is saying that you have to distinguish between the following pair of terms. And of course, it says niche and habitat. So I'm waiting for that. Also, I'm waiting on the I'm waiting for you to distinguish between abiotic and biotic factors. You might be asking, Mr. Wilson has not said anything, so let me just say something. But I did tell you what, of course, is ecology, so I played my part. It is study of organisms interacting with each other and, of course, the environment. And we could also talk about biotic and abiotic factor. When we say bio, we're talking about life. Biotic. Our population is all the members of a particular species, which, while environment, hold on, Claudia and Car. I see you digging up some information here. But remember, we are going to cut to the chase. We are going to do it like the syllabus. The syllabus wants you to make the distinction between population and species. And it also wants you to look at population and community, right? So when you're making the distinction, don't just go too wide. Make sure you keep it where we want it to be. Population and species. So tell me the difference there, make the distinction there, population and species. Then you are going to tell me about population and community. I was about to talk about abiotic factors and biotic factor. So the biotic component of life refers to the living component of Earth, everything that is living. Once we say biotic factor, we are talking about living things. And that is, of course, going to take in the commensal relationship, the predation, the predatory relationship. It's going to take in our symbiotic relationship, and all those type of relationships that we're going to be discussing later in the lesson. Forces, competition, all of those. Once organisms are usually alive, once they are interacting, then we are talking about the biotic component of life. Now, the abiotic component, the easiest way for me to teach kids, I usually tell them that is those things that you study in geography. All right, we could talk about edaphics that has to do with the soil. We could talk about temperature. We could talk about pH. We could talk about humidity. It's usually all of those factors that you're studying in, of course, geography. All right. Now, your definition might say that it is the non-living component of the earth. But when we say that and when we give students and ask students for a definition, they usually write on the exam paper, abiotic factor would be like the desk and the chair. No, those are not. We're talking about physical factor. All right. So the easiest way is to just think about those things that we study for geography. You can also find them in your textbook. A long list of them would be in the recommended text. I think a teacher would have recommended a text for everyone, right? And if you don't have a text, of course, I'll recommend one for you. I would have been using many texts over the years, and I think I have a good appreciation for the good ones and those that are, surviving. All right, good. So I'm still not getting anything from from anybody in the chat. I do hope that it has nothing to do with the internet service. Rihanna Knight, good evening. How are you? We're trying to find out. We want you to distinguish between species and population. All right, species and population. Shaquila Lewis, I want you to do the distinction for me between biotic and abiotic. And I want you to cite examples as well. Claudian Carr, I want you to look at, of course, population and community. I want you to tell me the difference there as a syllabus to distinguish. And I want, where is Amoy? Amoy is here with me. Let me tell you what I want you to do for me, Amoy. Sir, please repeat. Rena Knight, I want you to tell me to distinguish. I'm reading from the syllabus now. I want you to distinguish between, I'm going to start all over. I want you to distinguish between abiotic factors and biotic factors. I want Claudian Carr to tell me about distinguish between niche and habitat. I want Amoy to distinguish between population and community. Yes, I've changed it. And I want, oh my, this thing is just not working like I want it to. All right, fine, I'm gonna have it all sorted out. All right, and I want Amoy, did I say population and community? And I want Shaquila Lewis to look at species and population. Now, once you would have given me these definitions, then I'm going to be diving into the lesson and I'm going to be chatting a little more about all of these and see how best you can survive it. We have a lot to cover now. We have 2 hours of packed class. So let us go. Don't fall asleep on me now. Don't fall asleep. Remember to call your friends to join. We're ready to go. Oh, good night, sir. Otisha Gray, good night. How are you doing? We're trying to look at we're looking at some definitions here from the syllabus. We are looking at both human and social biology syllabus and the biology syllabus. But we started out with the biology syllabus and we started coining some definitions as are requested by the syllabus. Now, it is asking us to distinguish between a number of words, right? And the first one I looked at was, of course, habitat and niche. Then we spoke about biotic and abiotic. We're talking now about species and population. Now, they are coming a little slow, so I'm going to be helping you out. We're going to roll right along. So we spoke about abiotic component being those physical factors. I like to say those that we measure in geography. And we talk about edaphics that has to do with the soil and the topography and all of that. We spoke about temperature. We spoke about humidity. We spoke about pH. All of these you would find under, of course, abiotic factors. And it is referred to as a non-living or the abiotic component of the environment. It has nothing to do with a motor car or a light post or a wall or a truck or a chair or a tire. It has nothing to do with that. So I'm going to be looking at what Claudian Carr has said. Claudian Carr, habitat is a place where a particular organism lives, while niche is a position or role of an organism. Girl, if I had some money, I'd send you some money for that definition. That's a wonderful definition. Let's see what Rihanna Knight has here. Biotic factors are living or once living organism in the ecosystem, while abiotic factor refers to the non-living physical or chemical elements in the environment. Wonderful. Now you guys have done something marvelous. This is what I want you to do. This one is huge. This is big. What I want you to do for me is now just to cite examples of each. So tell me about the Claudian Carr. I'm going to push you a little further. I'm going to just push you with a little word. Arboreal. That habitat, when we talk about arboreal, what are we talking about? If you have to Google it, go over there and Google it for me. All right. And then I want you to tell me about the role. Tell me about the niche of the decomposers. Remember, the decomposers are our bacteria and you have it right, fungi. So I want to know the role, the niche of the bacteria and fungi, because these are stated on the syllabus. And of course, in your exam, I'm sure you're going to have to pull on this knowledge. So I want to know about arboreal. I'm sure that word is on the syllabus as well. All right. We spoke about edaphics already, so you would have known that. Now, I'm waiting on the others to communicate with me. I did ask for a lot of stuff, and I really don't want to answer them when you are working on them. So work with me. I'm going to be waiting, but I'm going to be moving on to something else. And I remember that I have to call back on you. So here we go. We are going to be looking. Sorry, I might pass. All right, good. So we're going to be looking at a whole lot of other stuff. I'm waiting on the other stuff to come on. Now, let us look at habitat. Now, the habitat, like Claudia and Carr has said, is a place where organisms are usually found or where they live. Now, habitat can be broken down in a whole lot of different stuff. But the two major ones we could look at, of course, is going to be terrestrial and aquatic. Terrestrial and aquatic. It's very important that you understand the difference between them, because when you are doing your food web and your food chain, you need to have an appreciation of what is the terrestrial habitat versus what is the aquatic habitat. So we could go now a little further. Let me talk about aquatic habitat first. I'm coming on. I'm waiting on your definition so that I can expound. So the aquatic habitat could be freshwater or saline. When we talk about saline, we're talking about marine, we're talking about salt water. Freshwater, we're talking about river water. There are some ponds that have fresh water, there are some ponds that have salt water. Now, these habitats are very, very, very important, because if you have an ecosystem with different organisms, with different niche, here we are with the word niche, different role, they have different position, then you understand that this is going to become important. Because can you imagine if everybody in this room were supposed to be living at Claudia and Carr's house? It couldn't hold. So all organisms had to have a different niche in order for them to survive. So we talk about salt water and fresh water. There is also what we refer to as brackish water. And brackish water is going to be found in areas we refer to as estuary. Have you ever heard the term estuary? Yes or no in the chat for me. I don't want you to sleep. Have you ever heard about estuary? All right, Claudia and Carr is kicking today. I mean, she's on like 10 cylinder. Arboreal is where organism is associated with trees, while arboreal where organisms move about in trees. So when we talk about arboreal, we're talking about those organisms that usually we find them in the tree. And if you were supposed to look at a bird, right, that you would find in a tree, you'll find that the bone mass causes the bird to be so light so the bird can fly easily and go out on some very small limbs. Also, you'll observe that on a tree, you're going to find ants and you're going to find lizard and all of that. So we talk about arboreal. Of course, this is a terrestrial environment because in most cases, the tree is going to be growing on land. All right. So arboreal refers to those organisms that are associated with tree. So Animate is saying that I've never heard about estuary. Wonderful. That's why you're here today. Gray saying that I've never heard about. I like you guys. You're responding now. Claudia and Carr, which is called arboreal locomotion. All right. Locomotion is another big, nice word. I'm going to be talking about that. If I don't, remind me, please. All right, here we go. An estuary is that area where the sea meets a river, or where salt water meets fresh water. All right, you'll understand when I looked at osmosis, we spoke about fish living in these two environments, and we said that the salmon was the only fish that I know of. Probably there are others, but from my studies, I can only remember the salmon that is able to move from salt water to fresh water, from fresh water to salt water, and it does not really affect the water concentration of this organism seriously, because the organism is able to expel that extra salt should it need, or that extra water. So we are doing well so far. I'm still not seeing some of the definitions that I have asked for, but now we know what's an estuary. So being that you have not given me the definition, life must go on. And I understand that you might not be as prepared as I thought you would have been, but that's fine. So we spoke about abiotic, we spoke about biotic, we spoke about niche, and we spoke about habitat. We also said that ecology is the study of living organisms in their environment, and we're talking about being in the environment. They are interacting with each other, be good or bad, and they are also interacting with, of course, the abiotic component of that environment. All right. Now, ecosystem, all right, is a community of living organisms sharing the environment. So we talk about ecosystem. Ecosystem, this is a big word. You can find an ecosystem on your skin or in your mouth. Organisms. Remember that organisms are not only the big elephant and human and dog and pig and goats and all of that, you know. We also have microorganisms, which are the small organisms. So an ecosystem is a community. And if we talk about community, let's get to this definition now. A community is a group of different population living together. So we could talk about population. If we were supposed to define population, population, of course, is a group of pretty much the same species living together. So we talk about the human population. Whether you're a black man, white man, Chinese man, Indian, or chief, you belong to the same population, the human population. But when you have the human population now interacting with some trees from the same population, interacting with some lion, you'd say a pride of lion, but we're looking at a population now, and we'll talk about a flock of bird, and it's of course a population, because we could look at the same species bird, and they're all living together. You have ever seen penguin on the sea when you're watching National Geographic or those? That's a population, right? Or you would have seen the sea lion. That's a population. So when we talk about all these interacting with the environment, an ecosystem is a community of living organisms sharing environment. So we're talking about many different types of organisms. They are sharing the environment. And we talk about environment, we talk about the abiotic, which of course is the non-living and chemical component of the environment. And we're going to be diving into these soon, so don't worry yourself too much, just follow me. So we spoke about population. Now, population, of course, is a group of similar species living together. Now, let us go back to this bit of information that I communicated to you when we did cells. And you're going to go very nicely and slowly with me. We said that a group of cells make a group of... No, you have to give it to me in the chat. I'm not going to be talking to myself now. Give it to me in the chat. Talk to me in the chat, somebody. A group of cells make up a group of... A group of cells would make a group of... Group of cells would make what? I need to help you. A group of cell, tissue. A group of tissue will make what? Continue now. All right. A myelin tissue. So a group of tissue is going to make what? Come on, somebody. Anybody? Organs. Organs. Wonderful. And a group of organs is going to make what? Muscle tissue. All right. A group of organs is going to make what? Organ. A group of organ is going to make organ system or system. Continue again. And a group of system now, we have system. So let us just pause one bit, because we're going there, you know, we know exactly where we are going. We started out with organelle, and then we got to cells, and then we said that a group of cells is going to make tissue. We could talk about the plant cell, the onion cell, we could root hair cell, we could talk about all that. We have to go back, and then we could talk about tissue. We could talk about connective tissue like the blood and the bone and so on. We could talk about that which makes up the heart, the cardiac muscle and so on, that type of tissue. Then we could continue now to talk about the organ. The heart is an organ. We could talk about the leaf. The leaf is an organ. And we could say that these make up other system. So we could talk about like the digestive system. And you could relate to all those stuff in the digestive system. Of course, they are taking care of your nutrition. And we could talk our nutritional need. We could talk about, of course, the circulatory system that we spoke about on Sunday with the heart and the blood vessels and all of that. So we have system there with, of course, organ and, of course, tissue. Then we made organisms like you and I. You have me, you have a dog, you have a tree outside, and you have those animals that you're seeing on the television. Some you would know and some you would not, because, of course, many of you don't know what is called a platypus, and you wouldn't know what is called a Venus flytrap, and you wouldn't know what is the pitcher's trumpet. If you know what they are, just type them in the chat for me. So after we would have had organism, work with me now. After we would have had the organism, then the next place we are going is where? We'll pass organ system. We're at organism now. Where do we go after organism? Type in the chat for me, somebody. Type in the chat for me, somebody. Come on, type in the chat. So we have organ, then we have organ system or organ, our system. We have organ system or system, and after system we have organism, and after organism, thank you very much, Animate. After that we have population, and after population, what do we have? After population, what do we have? Work with me. I think the service is very, very slow. After population, what do we have? We have a community. Now, hold on with the species stuff. I soon talk about species. So after we have the community now, so let us backtrack a little bit. We have organism, that's you, me, the breadfruit tree, the ackee tree, the guinea tree. I was told that in Barbados, these things have different name. But for CXC, you don't need to know the botanical name. Your common name is fine. So let us move right along. So we have organism, then we have population, then we have community. And after community, what do we have? After community, what do we have? Ecosystem. That is perfect. Exactly. So that is where we are now. We are studying the ecosystem. But there are some big words that we made mention of, and I'm going to be pulling them apart, showing them some places and so on. But when you leave here today, you must have it locked. You must have it locked. A big word that I want to touch that somebody wrote here is the word species. Now, species refers to organisms that can interbreed and produce viable offspring. What do we mean by viable offspring? The offspring themselves are able to produce offspring that are able to produce offspring. That's what we mean when we say viable offspring. Now, when we talk about species, we have to go back to classification, and we're going to talk about the genus name and the species name. All right? So for us, we talk about Homo sapien. Homo, genus, sapien, species. Now, I'm going to be telling you about two rats. Where are my HAB students? Say amen for me. I'm going to be telling you about two rats. One is Rattus rattus. So I gave you two names there, the genus and the species. Rattus rattus and Rattus rattus. That is both genus and species. And then I'm going to give you another rat, Rattus navincicus. These are two rats. Oh yeah, there are two rats. But guess what? If they were supposed to mate, they would not produce viable offspring. Now, there are others that you know. You could talk about the tiger and the lion. When they mate, they produce what? Write it in the chat for me. Somebody say amen. Write it in the chat for me. When the tiger and the lion meet, they produce what? And you are from Jamaica. Hi, sir. Sorry for being late. That's fine. You're here. Just join and let us go right ahead. So listen, when the tiger and the lion mates, they are going to produce a tiger. It's called a liger. It's called a liger. And usually the liger cannot produce a viable offspring. But in our local context, if you come to us from Jamaica, you know about the horse and the donkey. Oh, you have both? All right, I need to write that down. You have both. I'm going to be looking at what's the difference there. Not a problem. I like when you give me this stuff, you know. So you are saying that there is a liger and there is a tigon. I'm going to be looking at that. And next Wednesday, we're going to be talking about that. All right. So the tigon is the female and the liger is the male. Oh, wonderful. This is a nice class. I always like a class that I'm learning something new because, of course, Mr. Wilson is not the keeper of knowledge. So I want you to be teaching me. That's fine. All right. So horse and donkey give you a mule. Yeah. And what we know about the mule cannot do what? The mule will not produce viable offspring. The mule is that animal that looks pretty much like a horse. Mule is barren, so offspring is not viable. All right, and we have to understand why the offspring is not viable is because there are two different species. They did produce an offspring, but the offspring is not viable. So when we talk about species, we are talking about organisms that are able to interbreed and produce offspring that themselves can produce other offspring. Understand? All right, so they can't have baby. Thank you very much, Emil Scan. All right, so we are doing well so far. I think I'm like what's happening. I'm going to be looking at the syllabus again, and I'm going to be rolling out with something else. So we spoke about species, we spoke about population, niche. All right, so I gave you all these definitions. I do hope that you have them. Discuss the importance of soil. So I'm going to be upping on over to soil very, very quickly. Now, the syllabus wants me to look at soil. It said discuss. Remember that this is a crash course, and I do hope that you are going to read over, and you can come back to me next week, Wednesday, when you are properly charged, better charged, and ask me some questions. Now, discuss the impact of abiotic factors: soil, water, climate on living organism. Who wants to take that? This is a wonderful one. Wonderful. I think I really like this. So we're going to be talking first. I want to look at soil. Let's look at soil as it says here. Now, soil, some person would define to be the uppermost portion of the earth crust. Now, there are a lot of organisms that depends on soil for support and for a whole habitat, a whole lot of other stuff. Now, the type of soil that there is will always determine the type of plant that we have in the particular area. So to the elevation that the soil is found will also dictate the type of crop that is grown there. And let me give you an example. If you were supposed to look at coffee, we talk about Blue Mountain coffee. Now, Blue Mountain coffee is growing at very high elevation. If you were supposed to take it down on the flat, it would not do well. So, of course, the soil type and the elevation will always affect the disposition, or where you will find both crops and, of course, some animals. All right? So, soil. If we look at some mangroves, and we're going to look at mangroves with the water, the red mangrove is found where? The red mangrove would have, of course, been closer to the sea, closer to water. And then after more inland, as we travel inland with that soil, where we're going to find the black mangrove. And then when we go further inland where there is less water, we're going to find the white mangrove. And then as we travel further inland, there's a fourth mangrove that we call the button mangrove. All right, so these are growing on soil depending on the amount of water that is in that soil. Now, you could also think about, for example, I'm going to be talking about some crops in Jamaica. There's what we call the cashew. Now, cashew, you'll find a lot of cashew, some in Kingston and some in Clarendon. But you're not going to be finding cashew, of course, in St. Thomas. No, the temperature will just not allow it to grow well over there. And of course, the soil type is not favorable for those plants in that region. So to mangoes, you'll find a lot of mangoes in very hot region. You'll find like grape in very hot region. But let us look at the soil type and temperature again. If you want to find strawberry, you'd have to go up to Blue Mountain if you are in Jamaica, or you'd have to go like Christiana and those areas. So the soil type will always influence the type of plant that is grown. For example, if you are growing rice, we could talk about rice again. You want to have more of a clay soil, something that can hold the water so that the plant can have adequate water, right? So different plants will do better depending on the soil type. And remember, primarily for CXC, we talk about 3 soil types. Can you just type them in there for me? Type them in. Somebody was saying something. Juliana Walker, like rice. Like rice to serve, the soil always have to be wet. Wonderful. Right, and we used to plant some rice in Jamaica. I think they used to plant some in St. Thomas somewhere there and some in Westmoreland. So Amoy loam is one of those soil that we're going to be looking at for agriculture and for soil. After loam, what do we have? We have loam, we have sand, and we have clay. Loam, sand, and clay. And before I move away from soil, I want to talk some more about the water holding capacity. Just let me look at what it is asking me for additional. So we're supposed to importance of soil in providing water, mineral, nutrients, and oxygen. Importance of air in providing the various raw material. Components of the soil. Air, all right, cool. Components, this is a lot for me to talk about, whole lot. And of course, it has to be a crash course. And this will do better on a PowerPoint. So we talk about components of a soil. All right, so soil is made up of about 5% humus, 45% inorganic material, 25% of water, and about 25% of air. All right, so that is the composition, that is what makes up the soil. Now, when we talk about organic matter, we are talking about the living component of the soil, not only the leaf that is decaying and all of that. All right, I will talk about the whole lithosphere part of it when we talk about the inorganic component of the soil. Now, let us just up on and look at the water holding capacity of the soil. When we spoke about rice, we said that rice needs to have some moisture. Now, when you look at clay soil, the particles are so fine and so close together that it does not allow water to pass through very easily. And as such, clay soil would not have been the most ideal soil, or it would not have been the most ideal soil. For example, if we were planting, tell me a crop. I want you to tell me a crop. If we are planting, what type of crop we would want to plant on clay soil? Because it would hold too much water. You don't want to be planting your vegetable on clay soil, because when you water it, you'll have this ponding effect. And if you have this ponding effect, you are going to increase the salinity of the soil, and you are going to be reduce the aeration to the root and all of that. So all of that is a major problem to the crop. Now, if you are growing fish, however, you'd want to have, of course, clay soil, because you want a type of soil that will hold the water and will, of course, reduce your water bill. So, of course, the soil type at all time, please read on soil for me. The soil type at all time will always influence where you can find organism. So we said that the water holding capacity of clay is very, very good. Very, very good. The water holding capacity is very, very good. We also said that the particles are really, really close together, and the particles are really, really fine. Now, you need to understand about soil particle arrangement. You need to understand the size. You need to understand the porosity of the soil as to how easily water will pass through the soil. Let us continue. Then we could talk about the one that most farmers would love, probably not the fish farmer, the crop farmers. Most crop farmers would want to have a loam soil, because loam soil will allow for the plant roots to grow very, very easily. Now, the particles of the loam soil, it is not as fine as the clay soil, but of course it is much finer than sandy soil. So it is most appropriate soil type for agriculture production if you are not thinking about the type of production where you want to retain water. So if you want to retain water for rice production and for fish cultivation, you would not want to have a loam soil. But for other crops, loam soil is going to be wonderful for them. Now, sandy soil is another type of soil. It's a type of soil that engineers like, because they use it for road construction, they use it to build buildings, and so on. Now, sandy soil for some crop, it is good. Probably grapes will do very well in sandy soil. And if you go to Yala St. Thomas, where there's a lot of sand, you'll find that there's a whole lot of mango tree there. So the mango tree is thriving very, very well on that sandy soil somewhere in Yala St. Thomas. Sandy soil makes it difficult for the soil to retain nutrient and water. That is so true, because the sandy soil is so, it has this large porosity. The drainage is extremely good. It will not retain water. So because the sandy soil is not retaining that water, what will happen is that it will allow leaching to take place. Leaching, leaching. Now, leaching is, of course, when the nutrient is moved away from the immediate surrounding of the plant root. And of course, leaching could take place either downward or sideways. All right? Doesn't grape grow on vine? Of course, grapes grow on vine. Yes, grapes grow on vine, but they grow on vine, but the vine must be in the soil. Yes, grapes are going to be on vine, and we're going to have trellis or a stanchion or something like that for the grape, but the grape must be anchored to the soil. But it have roots. Yes, it has roots. The grape has roots, and that is why I'm saying that it must be in the soil. Cooper, you want to help me with where exactly you're going with that question? I want to help you. I don't want to leave you hanging. All right, so you're wondering if it's like an epiphyte, those bird nest looking thing on the light wire? No, it is not like that. It is like it's like a big whisk vine, something like that, and it is anchored to the soil in root, and then it grow and bear and that type of thing. All right, good. So I was at a sandy soil, and I'm saying that it is freely permeable. We like to use that term. It's freely permeable, so it allows water to go through very, very easy, and the nutrients to gone. And after the nutrients go, then you understand that the plant will be suffering because it would not have enough nutrient to grow. Now, those plants like the taproot plants and some fibrous root system. The mango tree have taproot, so of course it is going to send down that root deep enough to get the nutrient that is required. And in some cases, the fibrous root system, they are growing so close to the surface that they just catch what they want very quickly and move on. So we spoke about sand, we spoke about loam. Of course, the loam soil is going to retain just enough nutrient. Of course, you will have to add some nutrient now and then via fertilizer, synthetic fertilizer, which is not the best thing. Remember, we want to always add organic fertilizer to the soil and not synthetic fertilizer, because synthetic fertilizer, it has a whole lot of damaging effect. We are going to talk about that at length when we zero in on this topic. Remember that this evening is just a crash course, and then we are going to be upping on into these things a little more. All right, so do we have any question there? Water holding capacity. So of course we spoke about the water holding capacity for the different soil. We spoke about the mineral. We said that some will hold more. And of course I said if you water the soil too much, it will affect the pH of the soil and it will increase the salinity of the soil. That we need to know. We're going to be doing some labs on that, and I'll be showing you a little bit about that. Let us continue over here. We're supposed to importance of soil, mineral, oxygen, importance providing various raw material, oxygen, carbon dioxide. Of course, the soil would have been that reservoir for a lot of the nutrient that the plant requires. Now we're supposed to be looking at water. Let's talk a little bit about water. Now, if we were supposed to remember to talk about locomotion, all right, this person want me to, just give me a second. Sorry, Aki tree have taproot system. Or dicot plants. Once it's a dicot plant, it has a taproot system. If it is from the Gramineaceae or Poaceae, whichever one you want to call it, the grass family, then it's going to have fibrous root. But we like to say the broadleaf plants as a dicot. It's not the best thing to say about dicot plants. But persons like to say broadleaf plants. They all have a taproot system, right? And of course, the fibrous root system would be from the grass family. Yes, we have to talk about locomotion, but that's for the skeletal system. I think that was on TBJ yesterday when they had biology or Monday, one of those days. But I'm going to be telling you about it before we leave. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about water, how water would affect the distribution of organism. You'll remember that if we were supposed to go to history class, we would remember that water was one of those key factors that was used to determine where villages were established, because you could not grow you couldn't grow crops nor animals without adequate water. If there is not adequate water, then hydrolysis and the whole nutrient absorption would not be as we would have wanted it to be. So water is very, very important in the distribution of organisms. You are not going to be finding any fish on land unless there is water. You will find some plants growing in the desert, like the xerophyte, but they are so specially adapted. Let me talk about this now. Now, of course, the water, where there's no water, plants are going to have special adaptation to conserve water or to get water. All right, so plants will reduce the size of their leaf. Leaf will be reduced to spines. They might not have any leaf. The leaf structure might be so modified, like the tuna, the cactus, all of these plants, that they really don't have any leaf. Now, if you think, for example, like the oleander, they have their stomata deep into the leaf in order to reduce the water loss. So we're talking about water and how water would impact the distribution of organisms. All right. And then the type of water too is very, very important, because the organisms that you are finding in salt water, you will never ever find them in fresh water unless you're talking about the salmon. Now, if you are talking about the salmon, you're going to find it almost fresh or salt water. It will just move from one place to another. I remember when we spoke about water, we spoke about different type of habitat with water. We spoke about marine, which is saline salt water. We spoke about fresh water, and we spoke about brackish water that has to do with, of course, where we find estuary, where salt water meets, of course, fresh water. All right, so we looked at that, and we also looked at the salmon. We also looked at the salmon and how unique the salmon is in being able to navigate from one place to another. Now, there are some organisms, if they don't have enough water, it will cause the cells to collapse and die. Now, in some cases, we do some modification in agriculture, we manipulate the system, and we can remove water from organism. If you were supposed to think about an organism like a slug or some pathogen. I've ever heard somebody saying, gargle your throat with salt. You have a cold. You have a cold, and they apply a little biology to it. What they do, they say, gargle your throat with salt, and you mix some salt water, and you gargle the throat with the salt water. What the salt water would have done is osmosis taking place. The pathogen that was there, the salt water would remove the water from the pathogen, and as such cause the pathogen to die, go away. All right, so you gargle your throat, and then 2 days. How you feeling now? I'm feeling better. You've just done a little bit of osmosis at home. Yeah, that's what you've done. So we've looked at a lot of stuff. Now, the freshwater animal like the amoeba have special mechanism to get rid of excess water that enter their body. Of course, we spoke about osmosis and how we could treat with that. And we spoke about the mangrove, but when we spoke about the mangrove, we're looking at the soil, and we're also looking at, of course, the water and where they grow. And then you will have different type of organism living in different layer of the water. You know that the water column would have different layers, and depending on the organism, it would determine where it lives, the size of the organism, and of course, the nutrition of the organism could also determine where that organism lives in the water. Now, that's a lot we've said on water. And remember, you should go to your textbook and read. We are doing a crash course on the program this evening. And then when I come next Wednesday, I'll show you some questions and see how well we did. And if we have to revisit, we will revisit. We could talk about climate. We could talk about climate, and that is going to be a big one. That's going to be a big one. What could we say about climate? When we talk about climate, can anybody just give me the distinction there? The difference between climate and weather, because we don't want to jump into this thing and think that climate and weather is the same thing. So I'm waiting on you because you fell asleep just now. Make the distinction for me. What is the difference between climate and weather? What is the difference between climate and weather? Climate and weather. What is the difference between climate and weather? And as we look at these, we're going to just look at some of the variables that are covered under this topic. So we are going to be looking at, of course, I'm going to be looking at temperature, and I'm going to be looking at light intensity. Now, light intensity is always going to affect the distribution of organisms. And all right, weather is the day-to-day condition. Climate is over a period of time. Weather is a short-term, small area. Climate is longer term. So we talk about what's the weather like today, and we talk about what is the climate like when. Guys, remember, you have to teach me now. I am not the person who I want you to give me some information too. All right, so we're going to talk now a little bit about a condition. I think it's we're supposed to talk about climatic condition. So we're going to be looking at climatic condition, and the one we're going to be looking at is, of course, light intensity. And light intensity, of course, is going to impact the distribution of organisms. So we're going to be starting, we're going to be looking at the Jamaican hole, the barn hole, the critch hole, whichever the hole you want to look at. Those organisms that are nocturnal. So now you're going to type in the chat for me, what is the difference between nocturnal and diurnal? Nocturnal and diurnal. I'm waiting on that. All right, so as we move right along, we're looking at lighting. Nocturnal is going to be night. So if we talk about nocturnal, we're referring to organisms that do better at night, like a ratbat and so on. All right, the critch hole and so on. And in some cases, the dogs. I think dogs are really nocturnal. You see them outside and they tend to sleep at day, but because they are domesticated, that sort of changed somewhat. All right, so nocturnal, sleep during the day, awake at night. That is so true, Amoy. Tell me now about diurnal. All right, cat. All right, good. Tell me about diurnal, because you want to know these words moving forward. I use them from time to time, and I want to share them with you that, of course, you're armed with enough knowledge. First, I'm hearing about diurnal. So just type it in your Google. Diurnal has to do with day. Anybody agree with that? Tell me what it means. Me too, sir. All right, great hearing about. All right, diurnal, you and I, we are diurnal. So we are asleep at night and we are awake during the day. So diurnal is going to be the opposite of nocturnal. All right, so it's either you are nocturnal or you are diurnal. I don't know if there's a term in between, but I know that nocturnal has to do with night and diurnal has to do with day. So with that said, that we understand the difference between day and night. Now we have two new fancy words. Let's talk about the effect of light distribution and climate. Now, I have never traveled. I don't know if anybody else here you would have traveled. I don't know where you are in the world, what it is like for you. But the first thing we are going to think about light and its importance. We spoke about water, and we know that water is very, very important for photosynthesis. When we talk about the distribution of organism because of water, we didn't talk about water and photosynthesis. But there is no photosynthesis without water, and you would have known that because photosynthesis is one of those raw material needed for, sorry, I'm so sorry. Water is one of those raw material needed for photosynthesis. I might just need some water just now, just the same. So water is one of those things that will be absorbed from the soil for photosynthesis, and that is why plants are usually growing close to water. Might I throw something else at you where you are? Being that we're talking about roots going towards water, now this is called geotropism. Write it down for me. The plant root moving towards water. Geotropism, or the plant root moving towards the soil. That direction moving down is called geotropism. So geotropism, and we are going to look at that when we are looking at response, tropism, different type of tropism, sensitivity, we're going to talk about that. So you want to remember that geotropism speaks to it really refers to the plant root moving towards the soil, moving towards water, that type of thing. And then we could talk now about phototropism. Phototropism is the plant response to light, or the plant, the cauliflower turns towards the light, or the plant at the window bend towards the light. All right, that is phototropism. That is not what we're covering now, but this is come up into this lesson. We'll talk about geotropism and phototropism. When we talk about the water and the soil, geotropism. When we talk about the sunlight now and the plant, we're talking about phototropism. So sunlight is needed for the distribution of plants because there is no plant without sunlight, because sunlight is one of those conditions that is very important. It is the light energy from the sun that the plant is going to trap with the chlorophyll in order to make glucose and oxygen. I remember the glucose is stored a starch in the various parts of the plant, and there are some plants that are storing glucose. Example of plant that is storing glucose, remind me because I told you that in some other lesson. Diurnal creatures diurnal creatures wake and sleep with the rising and setting of the sun. All right, but that is sort of vague. So remember that diurnal is in the day and nocturnal is in the night. Some sleeping and setting of the sun, that type of thing. All right, so I asked you something just now. What did I ask you? What's the answer? Waiting on the answer. All right, so we talk about the plants being phototrope, the plants using the light energy in order to make food. Now, there are some organisms that are depending on light to find food. For example, you and I, we're not getting up into the night and walk in the forest to hunt for anything to eat. No, we wait until the day we have street light and that type of thing. And we use the light in order to find food, and we use the light in order to escape predator. There are some organisms that are using the light to escape predator, and some to find food, some to find mate, some to find water, some to find shelter. So the lighting is very, very important for animals, and of course for plants, plants that are using the light for photosynthesis. Now let us continue. The light can also be, it could have deleterious effect on some organisms, bad effects. So if you think about those organisms, I like to talk about the nocturnal organism. Let us use the fancy words. If we talk about the nocturnal organism, those organisms that are coming out at night. Now they are coming out because they are doing much better. They can see, they can navigate much better at night. Now the light intensity would have extended their day because of this whole lot of light. They are seeing this light, they are somewhat confused. Is it night? Is it day? And what this could do to this organism, it could cause the organism to miss a mating period, 1. It could cause the organism to miss food, 2. And it could also put the organism at risk to other organisms as predator is out there looking for food, because they are all confused with the lighting. So this whole lot of lighting in the city for the organisms that are nocturnal, it is not the best thing for them. All right, it is not the best thing for them, and that is why we must have some protected area, some safe space for these nocturnal organisms, because I know that there are many persons who did not even think about those organisms that naturally their thing is at night, and we refer to them as nocturnal organism. All right, now there are organisms that are really, really specially suited for the bright light, and they have special adaptation. If you were supposed to look at our iris, we tend to have a dark iris in comparison to persons who would live in countries that are really dark or have long dark period. Think about England and so on. They probably have longer dark periods than we do, and they tend to have a lighter color eye, a blue eye, a gray eye. And why that is so? It allows the eye to pick up a whole lot of light, so they are able to see a little better when it is dark. Now, you and I having this dark eye, it helps us to shield or to reduce the glare of that light coming into the eye. So that is very, very important to know that we have some adaptation that help us that way. Now, remember that we have the eyelash that protect the eyes as well. So we're talking about light intensity and distribution. Now, if you look at the camel, you'll find them in the desert and so on. That is really, really bright. But if you look at their eyelash, it is really, really long. Really, really long. And it is long so that it can just, there's a quincy eye or something like that. You tell me what it's called. And that would reduce the amount of light going into the eye. You and I probably would have to wait until night before we can travel if we're in the desert. So the light intensity is good for the distribution. Some organisms will use it to escape predator. Some organisms will use it to find food, right? Or some organisms will use it to find the prey. And some organisms, like the plants, they need it to make food. We could talk about temperature. Temperature is also going to impact distribution of organisms. Little skinny me, you're not going to find me in any cold region. And let me talk a little bit about temperature. We're getting there. We're getting into the thing now. When we look at temperature, which is how hot or cold a particular thing is, it's very important that we understand the concept of global warming once we're going to be talking about temperature. Now, global warming, the Earth is always, global warming might be nice. It might be good. The greenhouse effect is probably good. It's probably bad. Fat makes us warm. That's where I'm going. I'm going right up to the polar region. I'm just building up the lesson. All right. So the Earth must be warmed by the sun and other activity. The problem is when we are increasing the temperature more than is sustainable. Now, when we increase the temperature that is more than sustainable, it is going to have bad effect, debilitating consequences. Let us go. You see, some animals used to live in the ice cap, like the polar bear and the whale, and a whole lot of organisms you would have seen up there when you watch National Geographic. They have under their skin a type of fat called blubber, big thick fat, and that helps to insulate the organism so that the organism doesn't succumb to the low temperature there. And of course, it is very important for them to reproduce. Now, if the temperature is increasing too fast, what it will do, it will eventually affect the mating pattern of these organisms because they will not have that warm. The body will not be so warm for them to even think about reproduction. So what you're going to find happening is that these organisms, I don't know if you know about R species and K species, probably I shouldn't deal with that. These organisms might miss a breeding period, and they are not like smaller organisms that are producing a whole lot of organisms. So you understand, if it misses a breeding period, it is going closer to what we refer to as the extinction vortex. Sir, global warming also changes the ozone layer, or the ozone layer also impact global warming. All right, good. We're going to look at that when we look at the carbon cycle. All right, so I don't want to dive too much into that. All right. So there are some organisms that we refer to as poikilothermic. You have ever heard about them? Poikilotherms and the homotherms. Anybody know about them? Poikilotherms and homotherms. This is something else we're going to touch in the syllabus later. No, sir, no, sir, no, sir. All right, good. I like when you don't know. All right, because when you don't know, it says that you're understanding where we're going and you're following in the lesson. All right, let us talk about it very quickly. Poikilotherms refer to those organisms that we call cold-blooded. Boy, you're one cold-blooded murderer. The cold-blooded, we have organisms, we know what they are. These are your cold-blooded organisms, are the organisms we call poikilotherms. You probably need to write them down because you're going to touch them later when we get down into the syllabus. So your poikilotherms are going to be your reptile, your amphibian, and what is the other one? Fish. So your poikilotherms are going to be your reptile, amphibian, and fish. Then your homotherms, what are your homotherms? Tell me them. Two of them. The homotherms are going to be mammals and birds. Thank you very much. Somebody's on it. Let us go. Wonderful, mammals and birds. A long time I don't make on talk. I just a chat away. Relax yourself, Mr. Wilson. I go to ward. All right. So tell me in the chat, how is it that mammals and birds regulate their body temperature? How is it they regulate their body temperature? Don't know? All right. While you think about that, we talk about mammals and birds. Let us talk about poikilotherms. Now, the poikilothermic organism, their homeostasis, homeostasis, maintain a constant internal environment served by respiration. Respiration is a big thing there. Respiration is the big word here. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so let us go. I'll soon get back to these two words. I'm not going to cover homeostasis today. All right, poikilotherms, their body temperature reflects the body temperature, reflects the temperature of the surrounding. Their body temperature is regulated by external means. So what it means, if a crocodile is cold, it will go out into the sun. If it is hot, it will go into the water or roll itself into some mud. All right? If a snake gets too cold, like we would have seen where the snake is a reptile, same thing for the crocodile. You would have seen a whole lot of snake. They found a whole lot of snake in Jamaica when we had the heavy rain the other day, because the animal is now cold, so it's trying to move to place to get itself warm, because they are relying on external factors in order to regulate their body temperature. So they will go out into the sun, find somewhere cool and dandy. You might come home and find a snake in your bed, because of course it's spelled. Hypothalamus, a gland in the brain, is that how it's spelled? Hypothalamus. All right, a gland in the brain. All right, help with the homeostasis, regulating a lot of things. Some people are going with something, you know, man. Some people know some content, you know, show some content out there. I'm talking Jamaican now for those persons who don't know. That's how we speak the Creole. So let's continue. I'm going to be talking about these as we go along. Hypothalamus. All right, what I'm going to ask you to do, the spelling, hypothalamus. Google never failed us yet. All right, so let us move right along. We were talking about regulation. So while those organisms regulate their body temperature using external means, there's the mammal and the bird that their body temperature is regulated pretty much by respiration, how much they eat. So they tend to eat more. What you're going to find is that the mammal and the bird, they tend to eat more per capita, the body size, all right, than the reptile. You know that a crocodile don't need to eat every day. Same thing for the snake, you know. But we need to do that in order to regulate that body temperature. All right, so we look a lot at temperature. Much more can be said. We spoke about blubber under the skin of these organisms, and we could also talk about temperature with distribution. The temperature change is going to affect the distribution of the organism, because the organism will have to find area that is more suitable for them. Now, with the change in temperature, if we have an increase in temperature, what we're going to find is that we're going to have more liquid water. When we talk about liquid water, I'm talking flowable water, and solid water, I'm talking about ice. So while the ice cap would have been areas that hold a lot of water, it holds a lot of water. With the increase in temperature, these ice cap, they are going to melt. And when these ice cap melt, the sea level is going to rise. So areas that are very, very low, like Ireland and Denmark, they are going to come under threat. And low-lying areas, they are going to come under threat, because the sea level is going to rise. And of course, it is going to damage people's property and person and all of that thing. So the sea level rising is a problem. All right, you're going to have flooding, and of course, with the change in temperature, that could also affect weather pattern and all of that. So it is very, very important that we understand how temperature could affect the distribution of organisms. We spoke about temperature when we started talking about the strawberry at in Manchester there, and up Blue Mountain. We spoke about elevation. And there's this fig type of tree that is called Mami. It is also found at very high elevation. And there are some plants, based on the temperature and the elevation, you'll never find them on the flat. And those that you find on the flat, you'll never ever find them at high elevation. If you do find them at very high elevation, they will not produce like they would if they were in their ideal habitat. I have tried planting American apple seed in Jamaica. And to date, I don't know if there's an American apple in Jamaica. You can tell me if you know where there's an American apple in Jamaica. I don't know. I've never seen one. But the first time I got an American apple, it was so nice, and I tried planting the seed so that, of course, I could have gotten a seed of my own, a plant of my own, but it just did not work. So the climatic factor, there are a lot of things that we could talk about, domains and the taiga, the tundra, all of those stuff. but I don't want to take it. There's a crash course and I don't want to hurt up nobody's head. But so I take it really simple. So we look on light and we look at temperature, carbon dioxide importance. We could talk about carbon dioxide. It's very important for photosynthesis as well. And of course, as the temperature of the day increases, that is also going to affect the carbon dioxide. I didn't touch this, but I should have said as the temperature of the day increases and the temperature of the water increases, then it causes less oxygen to be available to the aquatic organism. So you don't really want to increase the temperature of the water, because if you increase the temperature of the water, it is going to affect the organism. So too, if you increase the pH of the water is going to, and when we increase the pH of the water, what we're talking about with these whole lot of motor vehicle, the exhaust from the engine, we're talking about the burning, when you are burning, even when you are cooking your food. But these burning and the sulfur dioxide and all of that, and we have acid rain, and it affects the water and affect the organism. So all of these things that we do, some that we do and some that we don't do, they do impact other organisms. Remember, it's a crash course, so we're doing here. I'm going to be showing you some questions next week to formalize what we have done, some past paper questions, so that you can better organize your thoughts. I'm not giving notes. You realize I'm going very, very fast, but at any time you can stop me for us to have a discussion around anything you so desire for us to look at. Now I'm going to be identifying the relative position of producer, consumer in a food chain. So we're going to look at what is a food chain. So very quickly, type me in the chat, what is a food chain? We're going to be looking at that now. What's a food chain? We're at objective 3.1. What is a food chain? Type up very quickly. What's a food chain? And then we're going to have another meal around that. All right, I'm waiting. Is it there as yet? All right, so we're looking at the food chain, and I wanted you to tell me what is the food chain. All right, so a whole lot of stuff coming in. All right, I just grabbed that from the internet for you. It's not my work. Let me put a disclaimer out there. It is not my work. So don't think that that came from my head. I just ripped it from the internet. Sir, by respiration, hypothalamus, that's what I was talking about. A food chain shows the eating relationship, the feeding relationship of animals. All right, I hear you. A diagram, I was looking for that word to start with, the diagram, a diagram that shows the flow of energy. All right, that is a good way to go. That's a nice way to start it. A diagram that shows the flow of energy in the ecosystem. Tamaya Morrison, food chain is the process of human receiving their food. We have to revisit that, Morrison. Kevin, sir, diagram showing the flow of energy from one organism to another. That sounds a little closer. And then we can continue. A food chain shows the transfer of energy. A whole lot has been said here. Cooper, a food chain is organism within the ecosystem that, all right, so we need to find a definition for the food chain, a real working definition. Food chains are a sequence of transfer of matter and energy in the form of food from organism to organism. That one is a big one. A whole lot is said there. But what really is a food chain? What is a food chain? So if you were to ask me what is a food chain is a diagrammatic representation that shows how food or nutrient, which is of course energy, passes from one organism to another. So it is pretty much a relationship that shows how nutrient, food, energy, whichever one you want to use. I'm sort of afraid of food, and I'm going to tell you why in a bit. food, nutrients, energy, I rather to say energy, it's passed from one organism to another, and it's usually a diagrammatic representation. So this is that, it's not to say that this is just the only thing that will happen out there. You know that after a food chain, we talk about a food web. Now, the important thing to know about a food web, about a food chain, is that the food chain is made up of trophic levels. Can anybody tell me what is a trophic level? Very quickly, what's a trophic level? Tell me that bit. What is a trophic level? And while you tell me what is a trophic level, I also want you to make your food chain. I want terrestrial food chain. Terrestrial food chain means that these organisms are living on land. Just use that arrow key, that greater than less than sign there on the keyboard to tell me about your food chain, to make a food chain. So I want you to make a food chain for me with 4 trophic level. I think the syllabus is saying for both HSB and biology, we're supposed to look at 4 trophic level. So we're going to identify the relative position of producers and consumers in a food chain. We're going to be looking at that. I'm going to be explaining that. And we're going to be constructing food chain, and I'm not sure we're going to be doing the pyramids today, the pyramids of energy, the pyramid of number, and so on. I don't think I want to do that today. It's going to take a little more work, and I don't want to do that in a crash course because I might just cause more problems. I want to show you the real thing. All right, we want to identify each habitat, a food chain containing at least 4 trophic. Yes, I know it said 4 trophic level. And where it wants the food chain to come from, just remember, those persons who don't have the syllabus, it's where we're supposed to look at terrestrial to include arboreal and edaphics. So edaphics has to do with the soil, and arboreal has to do with the trees. And then it wants us to look at aquatic, marine. We spoke about marine earlier, and then we spoke about freshwater. So remember that we have 2 major types of habitat. It's going to be terrestrial and aquatic. So we're pretty much on par, though I'm blabbing away. Trust me, I think I know a thing or two. I make a mistake now and then, but we hold it back together. Night food chain. All right, feeding levels. Tanisha is saying a trophic level is a feeding level. A trophic level refers to the position that an organism occupies in a food chain. 2 of them are right. A trophic level of an organism is the position it occupies in the food web. All right, we're looking at food chain, so let us dig it. All right, in the food chain, all the organisms in the food chain make up a trophic level. That is the first thing you need to know. All the organisms. The sun is not a part of your food chain. So do not draw your food chain and say the sun is a part. Now your food chain begins with a producer. Give me an example of a producer. Everybody, show me a producer, please. The producer has that ability to either produce energy, convert that energy from chemical or from light. So plants, grass, those are all producers. Wonderful. We're doing very well. So producers in your food chain, it is always going to start with your food chain is always going to start with a producer. But you know what I like about what you guys have done? You have just spoken about the ones that you know, and the syllabus says specifically that you should talk about some that you don't know. You can talk about things that you don't know, but we're supposed to talk about some. So I'm going to be introducing, amoy, that's the one I was going to introduce. Phytoplankton, these are microscopic plants, and we could also talk about zooplankton. These are microscopic animals. All right, so when you see on the paper, you're seeing phytoplankton. Phytoplankton, it is a plant. It represents a plant. Now, I'd ask you to make a food chain for me with 4 trophic level, and I wanted a terrestrial edaphic food chain. That means these organisms are on the soil. They're not in the tree. All right, see what you could do with that for me now. Very quickly, I want 4 organisms. Just type them in the chat for me. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're wrong or right. If you don't hear me big up your stuff, it means that it needs some more work. If you hear me big up your stuff, it means that it'll go on the road. Right? But if your thing never get big up, just learn from what I go on and just get a little stronger in the result. Do we have anybody outside of Jamaica in the group? I want to ensure that you're understanding and I'm not going too much Creole that you might be left behind. All right? For the most case, Jamaicans would understand when I go up and down and where I go with the choice. Nah, Tanisha. All right, so we have no foreigners in the group at this time. Gray, you're from Guyana? Are you serious? Gray, are you from Guyana? Are you serious? Gray? Okay, wonderful. You're from Guyana. So you know that we're going to be talking at the end of the class. Wonderful. I like having you guys here. All right, just type your thing there. All right, good. Everybody saw what Amoy Lawrence did. That is the thing I'm talking about with the food chain. And I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to go back to Amoy Lawrence stuff to talk to you, but I want other persons to write. I don't want anybody to say that I say it was right or wrong. Right? And Amoy Lawrence, I don't want you to go to any textbook and give me anything, you know. I want you to think about it and all of that. But if you know them from the textbook, it's sort of good. All right. So Grace saying that she's from Guyana, but she understands pretty well what I'm saying. If you don't understand wherever you are, please let me know. I can get to the level. All right. So we're looking at the food chain from Amoy Lawrence. And I'm going to be talking about it. Tanisha, which school? I understand that probably we want to understand a little more about the foreigners, but we don't want to prod them too much or pressure them too much to give out too much information. The internet is not a safe space, so allow them to just be a little comfortable here. And then probably someday when we have probably like a Zoom, that is a sort of close meeting where we get to know each other, then we can talk about which school and we can get a little tighter. I'm not even know the age group and all of that. And I when it comes to me, and people's children, I am like really, really serious. I don't ramp. As I say, who that? Those persons who know me, I'm serious when it come on to that. Lol, sir, why you laughing at me, Otisha Gray? You're not Guyanese? All right, so let us go. Amoy Lawrence, we're looking at your food chain. We'll ask for a food chain that is more edaphic, so we're seeing some arboreal in it, like an arc. The arc is usually in a tree. We ask for 4 trophic level. How many trophic level we're seeing there? All right, I want to help you with something here. We use a little symbol to represent each trophic level. I don't know if you know the what they call it, the degrees thing, like 365 degree. So we say 1. I have to write with a red marker. So I'm going to be showing you when we write a trophic level. So like this, you can see that would be the first trophic level, 1 with that little thing up the top. And then the second trophic level would be with that little thing up the top like that. That's the same second trophic level. And then we have a third trophic level. All right. So that type of thing. We're going to be breaking the food chain apart now, and we're going to be putting it back together. So if we were supposed to look at Amoy's food chain, it is a food chain. But what happened here, it doesn't answer the question like we would have wanted it to be answered. And probably Amoy did that so that we can learn from it. So we have a plant, whatever the plant is, we don't know. We have grasshopper, and grasshopper is a herbivore. All right. And then we have the lizard, which is going to be a carnivore. And then we have a snake, of course, which is going to be a carnivore. And we have the hawk, which is going to be a carnivore. Now, from the food chain, there is no way we can look at the diagram and say that there's an omnivore there. Because if there's an omnivore there, then the arrow should indicate that the organism is eating both plants and animal. Let us look at it a little closer because I like to say this to the students. Now look at I want to look at 2 things that probably you don't know. I want to look at the snake and the hawk. Look at the snake and the hawk. Now, the head of the arrow, the pointed part of the arrow tells who is doing the eating. So in this case, the predator here is going to be the hawk, and the prey is going to be the snake. Now the question is asked, can the predator be the prey, or can the prey be the predator? Oh yes, Nature is so magnificent that them can turn around depending on the organisms. So look here. Between the lizard and the snake, the predator there is the snake and the lizard being the prey. But look, the lizard is also a predator because the lizard is eating the grasshopper. See what that mean? So the predator, depending on its niche, depending on where it is, all right, in the ecosystem, its role in the ecosystem, it might be a predator, it might be a prey, it might serve both, it might just serve one. All right, one. All right, so let us go now. We want to look at some other things with the food chain. So the first thing we spoke about, we said that in the food chain, the first organism is called the producer. All right, the second organism is referred to as a consumer. All right, and we have some fancy terms that we attach to them. Like we could talk about the food chain and we could talk about the feeding type. So we could say the feeding type is producer, herbivore, carnivore. That's a feeding type. Producer, carnivore, producer, herbivore, carnivore. Then we could talk about the consumer level. At what level they are where the consumer thing is concerned. So we could talk about their producer. That means that they are able to change simple inorganic substances into organic substance, photosynthesis. So now I'm telling you about photosynthesis. We're coming back with all that we have learned. So the producer is able to use the sunlight energy to make food. That's a producer. Then we have the primary consumer, and we're talking about consumer level. The primary consumer is going to be the first consumer. So let me look at Amoy thing. The primary consumer there is going to be what? Type it in for me. Look at Amoy Lawrence food chain. What is the primary consumer there? Type it in for me, please. All right, while I look at Rihanna Knight's food chain, she has grasshopper, she has grass, she has frog, she has snake, she has ark. I wonder where all of these coming from looking so similar. They're coming from a red textbook for HSB. All right, Lulcer. And then I'm looking at Cooper, hibiscus leaf, caterpillar, frog, snake. I will have to carry some things come here, you know, because it look like some people just I deal with some books something and some people can't make up something out of them head and the syllabus. Some more so for the bio students, you're supposed to go out the door, go look for the organism them and make the food chain and the food web. It's not that you should pull it from a book. It's good if you can identify it from a book, but you need to be able to identify it in the real world. So we are looking at the primary consumer in Amoy's food chain. And the primary consumer, of course, is going to be your grasshopper. And then after the grasshopper, the primary consumer, we're going to have the secondary consumer. So what is the secondary consumer there? Secondary consumer in Amoy's food chain. Type it in for me. Secondary consumer in Amoy's food chain. Remember, there are some persons who have not joined us yet. You could just send them a message and ask them to join. We have half an hour left in the show, but there's much more to learn. All right, so the lizard is going to be the secondary consumer. The lizard is going to be the secondary consumer. The lizard, secondary. Remember, we have primary consumer, and then we have primary consumer, secondary consumer, and then tertiary consumer. Oh, wrong one. All right. So tertiary consumer, we're looking at Amoy's food chain. Tertiary consumer. Identify the tertiary consumer in Amoy's food chain for me, please. Amoy Lawrence, the tertiary consumer. Tertiary consumer in Amoy's food chain. So we said that the plant is the producer, the grasshopper is the primary consumer, the lizard is the secondary consumer. So who is the tertiary consumer? Tertiary consumer for Amoy's food chain. Tertiary consumer, we're typing it in. All right, just let me scroll on down and see. All right, is it a snake? So Amoy, where are you, Amoy? All right, so it's going to be the snake. So after tertiary consumer, we have another one now called, can anybody write it in the chat? What is it called? The other consumer level is called what? So we have producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and then we have another one. Is there a consumer higher than tertiary? Yes, the quaternary. Thank you very much, Amoy. It's called the quaternary. All right, so there's a consumer level, and usually we stop at the quaternary consumer. All right, usually they ask a 4 trophic level. I think Amoy food chain had 5 trophic level, but usually we stop at 4. And then we talk about trophic levels. We spoke about first trophic level, second trophic level, third trophic level, 4 trophic level. We usually stop at 4 trophic level, but Amoy went up to 5 trophic level, which is called a quaternary. All right, we have quaternary consumers. All right, I think we are doing very, very well. Now, we cannot move away without having a good grasp of the predator and prey. All right, remember the predator hunts the prey and feed on the prey. All right, so the prey is usually the food, while the predator is the one doing the hunting. All right, so we need to have a good idea. So from your food chain, what I want you to do now, let me use somebody else's food chain. I want you to look at, let me tell you the food chain that we're going to look at now. We are going to be looking at Rihanna Knight's food chain. It's the same food chain. All right, let me see this one. Hibiscus leaf, caterpillar, frog, snake. Let us look at Cooper, Lenny Cooper's food chain, and we are going to now choose from it a predator-prey relationship. So I want you to write the predator, then the prey. Predator-prey. So write the name of the organism in that food chain that is predator, and I want you to write the name of the organism that is prey as well. All right, so we're looking at a terrestrial food chain. Primarily, we should be looking at a food chain that is somewhat edaphics and one that is arboreal. My students are not at that level as yet, and I'm not going to choke them. I'm going to ensure that learning takes place. So if they did not do as well as I wanted them to do, I am going to be going over this lesson, of course, at their time. But what is very important for this class is that everyone is learning. So now they're supposed to present for me a predator-prey relationship. So a relationship can't be with one person. I don't have a relationship with myself. All right. So when I ask a predator-prey relationship, give me at least 2 organisms. All right, guys, don't mess up on that one. Don't do that to me now. A predator-prey relationship. So you have to tell me the predator and tell me the prey. Do not mix that up, all right? We don't want to do that. You're doing well so far, and I must say thank you very much for being with me this evening. I'm really, really happy to be with you. I think I really enjoy teaching, and I enjoy learning as much as I do enjoy teaching. So I don't mind you come here someday and teach me some things. I think I tend to like that. I tend to do a lot of things, and I'm always learning. I am fueled by the students I teach. They teach me something every now and then, but I really, really appreciate it. All right, so we spoke about food chain. We spoke about herbivores. We spoke about carnivores. Not as much as we should, but I'm going to be talking about that now before we move on into the other level. All right, what's that mean? I'm not seeing anybody. I'd ask you to look at Cooper's food chain, and I want you to write a predator-prey relationship. So choose 2 organisms. Tell me which one is the predator, which one is the prey. If you can't do it, just say I can't. Just say I can't, or just write no. It's very simple. Just write no, 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 and let me know that you're not understanding so I can assist you. I don't want the thing just to go blank. If it goes blank, I don't know if it is the internet that is out, but you're not responding or what. So are you preparing that for me? I want you to look at Cooper's food chain, and I want you to identify a predator and a prey. Predator and prey from Cooper's food chain. Are we doing that? Now, while you prepare that for me, I'm going to continue talking. I'm going to be talking, of course, I'm going to be talking a little bit about herbivore, carnivore, and of course, omnivore. We did say that in the food chain, you should not at any time say that the third or the fourth or the fifth organism is a omnivore, because that is not the case. If it's an omnivore, it might be an organism that you knew outside of the food web, but in most cases, when you go to the exam, you are supposed to use the organisms that are on the paper to answer the question, unless you are instructed otherwise. Now, we're going to be looking at herbivore. Herbivores are sometimes called grazers, and these are organisms that feed only on plants. So if it's a herbivore, it's feeding only on plants. I'm not understanding what's happening. I'm seeing nothing from my students. So I'm going to just, before I go into herbivore, carnivore, and omnivore, I'm going to go back to Cooper's. Oh my, it was happening here. So what happened? I'm so sorry. All right. So for predator prey, Amoy Lawrence has prey is the frog. So what is the predator, Amoy? Prey is the frog. What is the predator? Cooper, predator, frog, prey, caterpillar. All right. I'm not looking at it, but it looks plausible to me. Gray is saying prey, frog, and the predator, snake. That also looks plausible to me. Yes, you want to understand that because the feeding relationship is very, very important. I'm going to be telling you some fancy stuff as we go along. So you need to know that. All right, so I can act back. I'm very sorry, I wasn't seeing it, but I'm seeing it now, so I'm going to go right ahead. The snake is the predator. That looks plausible as well to me, Amoy Lawrence. So we're going to be looking, remember now, when you define herbivore are organisms that feed only on plant. It's very important that you write the word only. Don't just write herbivore are organisms that feed on plant. Like the omnivores feed on plant as well. So you must write that the herbivore are organisms that feed only on plant. Now it's very important to note that we have herbivores that are in the sea, in the river. So we have to understand that as well, that we are not just talking about donkey and elephant and giraffe and horse and cow and mule and those little things. We have to be cognizant. We have to get to the point where we understand that there are some fish that are herbivore. Think about the manatee. The manatee is also herbivore. It's found in the Caribbean Sea. I think it might be endemic to Jamaica. I really don't remember that. So I don't want you to go that as gospel. I'll check to ensure that I have that bit locked. This is an open class, so we're all over the place with a number of stuff. All right, snake is a predator. All right, continue. So remember, herbivores are organisms that feed only on plant. And then we have carnivores. What are carnivores? Give me that definition there and cite an example for the carnivore for me. Definition for carnivore. What are carnivores? Write it down there for me very quickly. Write it down there for me. What are carnivores? Carnivores. No, Amoy Gray, you have to revisit. Otisha Gray, you have to revisit. We are asking for carnivore. Carnivore. What is it that they feed on? Carnivore. Cooper. Consume other animals. Remember a while ago, guys, stop. 1 bit. Look at Amoy Lawrence. Amoy Lawrence is saying consumer that feed only on meat. Remember that word only. Herbivore are organisms that feed on plants only. Carnivores are organisms that feed on meat only. Do not leave that word off. Only. A carnivore is an organism that mostly eat meat and flesh of animal. Juliana Walker, what that is saying is that you don't understand clearly. But now you are going to be in the know. You are now going to write that carnivores are organisms that feed on only meat. They feed on other animals. All right. So you are going to leave here with that today. And we could go to the food chains that we looked at just now. We could identify those organisms that are carnivore. We could identify those organisms that are omnivore. In most cases, the paper, your exam paper, will ask you to identify them from the food chain that is given or from the food web that is given. And then we are on to omnivore. What are omnivore? Omnivores. What are omnivores? Tell me what are the omnivores? Tell me that in the chat there. Omnivores. Omnivore. So we looked at terrestrial habitat. We did not look at aquatic habitat, not to be confined to family. All right, so we're almost where we're supposed to be today. The last two things we're supposed to identify each habitat. That we'll have to revisit. I don't think that we did such a good job today, but we'll revisit it. And 3.4 is saying identify each habitat predator-prey relationship. We identified that from the thing. We're supposed to look at terrestrial, arboreal, and edaphics, aquatic, marine, blah, blah, blah. We should have looked at that. We did some of that, but I could go back. I could talk about predator-prey relationship with biology control. Yeah. We could talk about that. Biological controls, we are going to do that. I'll tell you about that. That's a nice thing. And let me just give me a second. I'm just making sure that I'm following the objectives, even though I sound that way. Investigate, like now, explain why. All right, so for HSB, it is saying that explain the ways in which other living organisms depend on plant directly or indirectly, and include plants as producer. Human beings depend on plant directly for food, and then it's so we are supposed to explain the principles of the food chain and the food web. I am not going to be doing the food web today because that is a big maze. And when I'm teaching the food web, what I tend to do is to use letters of the alphabet, and then I have you plug things in there so that you can understand when you get to the exam. So feed on animals. Let me see what I have here. Animals that eat, the animals that feed on plants and animals. All right, very good. That's what they do. Amylarians consume both plants and animals. Very good. That's wonderful. Juliana Walker, eat both plant and animal. Eat both meat and vegetable. Very good. Rihanna Knight, animals that eat both plants and animal. Guys, you're doing well. So now we want to look at we want to look a little deeper at predator-prey relationship, as the syllabus is asking me to do. Predator-prey relationship is a very, very interesting relationship, and it is one that, if not controlled, could cause serious problem. And I'm going to go from the problem to some of the solution that we have here. I'm going to go to the syllabus. I think we use BT. I think it's BT, mosquito control. I'm going to get back there. But I'm going to go to Brazil. In Brazil, there was a sugarcane beetle, and it is we have what we call integrated pest management. And the last thing with integrated pest management is to actually use like synthetic pesticide that will harm other organisms. Now, in Brazil, they had a problem in the sugarcane field, what we call sugarcane beetle, and they brought in a toad that ate the beetle. Now, this is going to open up a new can of worms for discussion. Now, the beetle that they brought in, enough work was not done to study the ecosystem. So the frog that they brought in, it had no natural predator. So of course the frog became invasive. Now what invasive organisms do, they tend to take over the habitat, the food source of the local organism or the endemic organism. In Jamaica, we have, just let me go a little bit further and just give you some wally or something. We have the Australian crayfish in Jamaica, which is invasive. I'm not talking about predator prey now, we're going to invasive. And the Australian crayfish is invasive because it is able to get up out of the water and walk across the land like a crab and go into water. Our local crayfish don't do that. So that is one of the reasons that we should not be bringing in organisms into the country unless we have permit from the government or those persons who would have done studies on it. We have also the oysters over by Port Royal called Pernavidas that is killing our local oyster. Then we also have, as invasive, we have the lionfish that is damaging our local fish stock. If I can talk about them, I'm going to talk about them. All right. So now that I tell you about some invasive organisms coming out thing, what about the lionfish? I made mention of the lionfish just now. So these are some things that we brought in, and we brought them in because they were fun to us. We did not do much study of a local ecosystem, and they came in and caused problem. I think in somewhere in America, there are some persons who brought in some pythons, and the pythons became so big they can't keep them at home anymore. So they just let them go in the wild, and then you understand the system doesn't know that they are there, and then they just start causing havoc. In some cases, they are breeding upon causing problem. Now, let us move back to the biological control, the predator-prey relationship. So the predator-prey relationship, we have what we call biological control, and it's not always predator and prey with biological control. With biological control, what we're doing, we're using one organism to control another. We use one organism to control another. Those persons who are using that red HSB textbook, and when they ask you to go around to where you find the mosquito, and look into that table, you will see something called BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. Like, tell me what it does when you go around there. I know you're using the red book. I said that's the thing you write on the screen, and I know the textbook them like. Yeah. So the Brazilian cane toad was brought into Brazil. It was brought in to control the sugarcane beetle. But having had the sugarcane beetle and the food supply became low, the organism became invasive. Invasive to the point it had no natural predator. If a dog was supposed to bite this frog, it would kill the dog. And it has this thing that if it's spewed in your eye, it could cause temporary blindness or blindness in some case. And then it just started to multiply because you understand that it does not have any natural predator. Now, of course, there's nothing in the environment that takes the form of a J curve. All right, a J curve is something that goes like a J. Everything in the environment must face what we call environmental resistance. So the only resistance that this Brazilian cane toad had was itself. It started eating itself because nothing else was there to control it. Just like if you have a bad man, and if a bad man them too bad and police can't control them, then they start kill each other, because that is how nature is. If nobody can, nothing can control it, you have to control yourself. All right, so the biological control refers to organism that we use to control other organisms. Now, you could think about, some persons have some little anancias where they call spider in the ceiling that capture mosquito in the web and they eat it. You could think about in Jamaica, we brought in the mongoose to control snake in the cane field, and then that became feral. Is the revision concise? Is the concise revision course CSEC Human and Social Biology a good textbook? Is it by Antindale? Who wrote that book? Amoy Lawrence, who wrote the book Antindale? So we have the mongoose that was brought in, and the mongoose became feral wild because, of course, they didn't have enough to eat, and then they started to feed on our chickens and so on. So yes, yes. If once it's from Antindale, I can tell you I have read her books. She has really good books. The summary book from Antindale is good, and of course the revision course for biology, that is also good. I got no pay to endorse these books, but I have used them. I've actually recommended them to my kids. Those textbooks are really, really good. And if I might say it here with 8 minutes into the lesson, biological control, just let me wrap on that and get back to that book. The biological control is using one organism to control another. I spoke about BT, go to the mosquito stuff, and we're going to start at the next class talking about BT and biological control. You would have known about using like fish, they call them tiki fish or gopher, that would throw them in the little gully water and they would eat the mosquito larvae. Now that is a biological control. You have like the dragonfly that flies over the water. It also helps to control mosquitoes. You have like cover crops, like pumpkin or like sweet potato that you plant on the ground. They cover the ground and they prevent other weed from growing. They are called cover crops. So we talk about predator prey, but now I'm moving now into biological control, where I'm showing you that there are many other plants that we use as biological control. We even have a concept that we call non-crop. I'm not going to be touching non-crop today because I think that's an environmental science. I won't touch it for bio and HSP. So biological control is where we are going to stop today. We are going to revisit everything that we have done today. I'm going to be giving you a test next week, Wednesday, on those definitions. You must be able to distinguish with those definitions. those definitions, you must be able to tell me about these factors that cause organisms to disperse the way they do disperse. And when we talk about organisms, we're talking about animals and plants from microscopic to macroscopic. You must be able to tell me about the habitat. Remember, we spoke about habitat being edaphics or arboreal, and those would have been the terrestrial habitat. We spoke about arboreal being the tree, and edaphics has to do with the soil. Remember, we also spoke about water, and I gave you 3 examples of water. I gave you fresh water, I gave you saline water, and I also gave you brackish water. We talk about at estuary. We continued in the lesson, and just let me ensure that we are recapping. Well, we continue and we look at how organisms are dispersed. The things that we looked at biotic, abiotic, we looked at population, we looked at niche, we looked at habitat, we looked at ecosystem, we looked at ecology, a number of definitions that we looked at, and then we looked at some of the factors that influence the distribution of organisms. I made mention of 4 types of mangrove. I made mention of red mangrove, black mangrove, white mangrove, and button mangrove. Button mangrove is that one for those persons who have gone to the airport. When you go out to Harborview, planted in the middle of the road, cement factory coming up, that silver looking green leaf thing, that is button mangrove. Most time that plant is grown inland. We spoke about the adaptation of some plants to conserve water, and I spoke about some xerophytes. I spoke about the cactus, and I also made mention of the oleander, which has its spore deep into the leaf. Then we dived over somewhere else, and we spoke about geotropism. We spoke about geotropism. We spoke about phototropism. I would say geo is its response to the soil and water, with the root going down. And we spoke about phototropism, where the plant is bending towards the light. Those are some things that came up in this lesson that came from other topics, but we did cover a little bit on it. I remember that I'm supposed to touch locomotion. And then we also covered poikilothermic, which was some big words that we shouldn't have brought up here, but we did bring them up, and a lot of persons learned. We said that the poikilothermic organism are those organisms like the reptile. We didn't even talk about class and phylum. I didn't even get into that with you. I don't want to trouble your brain as yet. So we spoke about fish, amphibian, and reptile being poikilotherms. And we are saying poikilotherms are those organisms we consider to be cold-blooded. They regulate their body temperature by external means. We also spoke about homotherms, which are the mammals and the birds. You and I, we're mammals, and we're saying that we're able to regulate our internal body temperature based on the fact of our nutrition and respiration. All organisms are respiring, but we tend to eat more. The birds and mammals tend to eat more in order to maintain that body temperature, because remember, we maintain the body temperature from inside. I don't want to get into how we do it. And then we came up with some fancy words. Some persons chose some fancy words at me. Some persons gave me some assignment. We were talking about liger and so on. When we spoke about species, and we said that species refer to organisms that are able to interbreed. And we spoke about the liger and so on. And then I got assignment. You know, wicked to me, man, and give me assignment. And then we also spoke about 2 rats. We spoke about Rattus and Rattus naventicus. And it's very important that you understand the importance of species, because species are going to be able to interbreed, and you have to understand that when I dive deeper into the lesson, you can roll with me. And then we came around and we spoke about food chain. And there are a number of things that we said about the food chain. We said that it was a diagrammatic representation of the transfer of energy within an ecosystem. I said I wanted to stay away from food, because the plant doesn't get really food from the sun, but it gets its energy, light energy from the sun. So we stayed away from the food thing. I would say it's a transfer of energy from one organism to another. And it pretty much started from the sun. We didn't talk about how organism lost energy, but we should not complete this lesson without talking about why the food chain is confined to 4 or 5 trophic level. And I'm going to do that right now and get back to my revision. Now, the food chain is confined to 4 or 5 trophic level, because as you move from producer and extend along consumer, you are losing energy. You are losing energy to respiration. You are using energy to transpiration. You are losing energy to removal of waste from the body. You are losing energy to respiration. I say respiration and transpiration. So it is considered that as you leave from one trophic level to another, you are losing about 10% of the energy there. So if you started out with 100, I think you keep reducing by 10, reducing by 10. So by the time you get down to the last organism, the amount of energy that is available for the last organism, it is significantly reduced. So if we're supposed to continue the food chain, it would not be able to sustain life. The last organism at the end would have died hungry. All right. And then we looked at the food chain, and we said that in the food chain, each organism in the food chain is considered a trophic level. And we show some signs that we use to represent trophic level, degree, and so on. And when you write your food chain, you want to write. We were able to break apart the food chain and identify the producer, the consumer, and we were also able to look at the producers. We're able to look at the consumer in the sense that we looked at primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, quaternary consumer. Some persons were not familiar with quaternary consumer, but we did that, and that is what this class is about. We were able to construct some food chain, but not the type of food chain that we wanted to construct, because we're supposed to construct some food chain to meet the need of the syllabus, and we're not there yet because we're not exposed to all the organisms, or enough organisms that we can treat with that, but you want to be able to do that. We made mention of predator-prey relationship, and we also looked at biological control, just a little snippet of it. We're going to revisit next week. We looked at omnivore, carnivore, and of course, herbivore. And we're supposed to know organisms, but not only the common ones. So we probably need to look at some past paper, look into some textbook. We also looked at 2 books, which I made mention of today. I made mention of 2 books by Anna Tyndale. I don't know who is Anna Tyndale, but I have looked at her books. A couple of her books I have had the opportunity to look at. And I say that these books are very good books to use. And for my adult learners who will be doing exams soon, I would not recommend that you use a textbook. I'd suggest to you that you use those revision book. The Anna Tyndale book, if you're doing biology, use the Anna Tyndale revision book. If you're doing HSB, use the Anna Tyndale revision book. I am Mr. Wilson, and I said so. If you follow that, read it every day, every day, every day, every day. Come to my sessions. Of course, watch the videos. I'm going to create a playlist that some of those videos are not my videos, because I don't have the technology to do it. Like mitosis and meiosis, I'm going to create a playlist that support that. Might I also say that I'll be pulling down my channel to better organize the lessons there, so that, for example, I keep saying Amoy Lewis because Amoy is always in front of me every time I talk. So that when Amoy Lewis goes to my page, if you were in my regular class, I'd be saying Crystal Mackenzie. All right, so when you go to my page, and if you want to look for something on photosynthesis, you could just click the link for photosynthesis. If you want to find something on diffusion, that type of thing, I'm going to better organize the page that it will take you less time to search. Yes, we're still going to have that long playlist. I think we have a playlist with about 32 videos. We're still going to have that, and we continue to put up videos every day. I'm putting up videos now on genetics, like I said, for you to have enough practice to get there. Have I covered everything that we did today? I did cover a lot, but like I said, we did cover soil. And soil could be looked at a little more. I think that we could do a little better job with soil than we did today. It was a crash course because I wanted to complete so much. But I will revisit that with some questions. And if you did not get what the syllabus wanted you to get, I am definitely going to treat with that. I'm going to be uploading a video on soils. I have everything here. I'm going to be uploading a video, a lab on enzymes. All right, so if you want to do the lab on enzyme, I could tell you what to do. The problem is that I didn't know if you had things like test tube or small, like a test tube at home. What the syllabus wants us to do, the syllabus wants us to look at pH. We're supposed to react with pH and temperature. So what we're doing, I took some vinegar from the shelf, and you know that all plants would contain some amount of protein. Yes. So I took some pumpkin from the fridge. The temperature was not so low, and I scraped the pumpkin, and you'll understand that the pumpkin contains enzyme. The pumpkin contains enzyme. Yes, the pumpkin contains enzymes, because of course enzyme must be a part of the whole process of respiration. So what I did, I put the anything we have in your fridge. Your banana, your Irish, your dasheen, your cocoa, your chocho, any one of those crops you could use because they have the enzyme in it. I think it's catalase they have it. And then another one now, I scraped and I threw some hydrogen peroxide on. Now, what happened when the enzyme in the food is going to break down the hydrogen peroxide into oxygen and water. So you're going to see a whole lot of froth, they call effervescent, coming up. And that you could use to measure out temperature, and you use some hot water as well. You could use hot water, pH, the vinegar, and the hydrogen peroxide, and you'll see how these things behave. You could also add to it if you want to make it nicer to understand why we need to chew our food. You could look at how surface area impact digestion. So if you were supposed to cut up the pumpkin in cubes and put it in the tube, what would happen is that the rate of reaction would be much slower than if you scrape the pumpkin. You could try that. I suggest to you, if you want to do the reaction at home, you can do it. I'll be doing it and I'll be uploading it. So I have a whole lot of things working on. I know that I still don't give you guys the animation video on what were we looking at? Autotrophic, heterotrophic, and saprophytic. I am still working on that video. For some reason, I have a little old computer and it is giving me a little problem with the audio. That's why I can't send up the video this evening. I did it and the audio is not good because my video card started something. But we still do the work. I will still put out some stuff. So I don't know if I said it earlier, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to be putting out the genetics videos now. I have variation out there already. You can go and watch variation. I'm going to be putting out, let me repeat, the test cross is coming out. What the test cross does, let me look for a name here now. Juliana Walker and I were the same height, right? Probably I should use two girls. Juliana Walker and Amoy Lawrence, they are two girls. They are the same height, they are tall. But I want to have a child that is a basketball player that is tall, right? But I want to, yes, sir. Cartoons are the best and easiest to understand. All right, I'm working on them. Most of the stuff I'm putting on now. It's just that they take a whole lot of time to put in this animation. All right, so these two persons are tall, and I need a child that is tall. But the truth is, I might be recessive tall. I might be recessive for the whole thing. That means I'm short. Now, I can look at these two young ladies, and I don't know. I hope that Amoy is a young lady. I do hope. Amoy and who are looking at? Juliana. All right. I can look at them and the phenotype will say that they are both tall. Phenotype is what you see, but I can't see the genotype. So I must do a test cross, and in doing the test cross, what I do, I will cross the homozygous dominant with the heterozygous. I'll cross the homozygous with the recessive, homozygous recessive, and I'll also do the same thing for the heterozygous and the recessive, right? That's the video I am working on now to come out. So we have the test cross coming out. We have the sex determination coming out. Those are easier ones. We have the codominance and incomplete dominance. We have recessiveness coming out. And we have the big nice one where everybody afraid of the pedigree chart. I am working on those. So I am busy working, busy working. I think I gave you all the videos that I should give you for circulation. I don't know that I'm going to be giving anything for blood vessel as to video, but I gave you animation for, oh yes, I have two more videos for circulation. I have systole and diastole to give you, and I have blood clotting to give you as a video. Those are going to be animated video that you can get a real picture of what is happening. I have the photosynthesis to finish. I finished diffusion already. So everybody good with diffusion. The animation is out there. I have a whole heap of video out there on diffusion. All right. Food digestion. I think I'm going to try to do an animation for digestion for you to see what is secreted where. I'm going to have the food go through, and while the food goes through the digestive system, when it reaches stomach, I'm going to show you that I have all of that hydrochloric acid and other enzymes and stuff added to the food there. I'm going to show you what the pancreas does and all of that. That animation I'm going to work on. I have not started that yet. So a whole lot of things I have planned doing. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember that you must watch the videos to the end. If you don't have any time to stand up and watch the video, just allow the video to play. I was home yesterday and I was watching, I had the TV on and the CXC classes were going on, CXC and City and Guild. And even though I was working on the video that I wanted to publish today, I was learning some maths. I learned yesterday about the vortex and angles and so on. It's 500 years ago I did them, so I didn't remember. So yesterday it worked. So I'm sure that if you allow these to play while you do your housework, clean the floor, lie down in the bed, drop asleep, just select the playlist. Go to my channel, select the playlist and allow it to play. Or select your favorite video on my channel and allow it to play. You will be learning. We need to get the subscribers in. We need to get the watch hour in. We really want to reach 1,000 subscribers before January. We are doing very, very well so far. You guys have been helping. You guys have been working. We need to get more persons to come on. We're having subscribers every day, right? And that is a good place to be. All right. Do we have any questions or concern? And let me ask you again, Otisha Gray, are you really from Guyana? Be honest with me. Otisha Gray, are you from Guyana? Otisha Gray, are you from Guyana? Is the chat working? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are from Guyana, but your diction, your choice of word is really Jamaican. Where are you living in Jamaica? Otisha, where are you living in Jamaica? It's a little slow. It is your time now, Otisha. Cultural exchange. That's a part of the program we are now. So if you're from Guyana, you're going to tell us a little bit about Guyana education system. And if you want to sell your country that is the best place on planet Earth, and we have the best forests, and we have rice and all of them something there, you can sell it here. No, have a lot of friends there. You have a lot of. Have you ever been to Jamaica, Otisha? Have you ever been to Jamaica, Otisha? It's a little slower. We're going to be asking you a lot of questions now. That's a part of the show that will reach cultural exchange. And you can ask us questions if you want to ask us. That's fine. You can tell us about the education system in your country. You can tell us about politics or anything. From Level Up Young Group. Not yet. Oh, so you have not been to Jamaica as yet, but you have a lot of friends in Jamaica. How did you acquire these friends in Jamaica? Was it via social media? You met persons coming to Guyana? I have a Guyana $5 that a student brought back from Guyana for me. Oh, you have not come to Jamaica as yet. I asked you the question a while ago. How did you meet your friends from Jamaica? Youth? No, not yet. Youth. All right. Not too sure. I think I missed that there, but I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions. From study group. Oh, you have study group in Jamaica. You want to tell me what school those kids are from in Jamaica? What school in Jamaica they are from? And if you don't mind, you want to tell me what grade level you are? Are you in grade 9, 10, 11, 6th form? All right, we're talking, they are from all over. All right, what grade level are you, Otisha Gray? Are you grade 9, grade 10, grade 11? From time to time, we have persons from Guyana here. You probably are the only person here today, but I think weekly we have persons. Sir, so many questions. It's cultural exchange. All right, it's your turn to ask the questions. Otisha, it is your turn to ask the questions. Oh, Tanisha, wow. Tanisha, you're from Guyana as well? See, I think Tanisha is the young lady we had one day, and she rough up some of my students. All right, so all these persons are from Guyana. All right, this is a cultural exchange. The part where we finish the lesson, I will just talk about the countries. I will try to make the community, as Facebook wants us to do, as YouTube wants us to make the world smaller. Juliana Walker, why are you guys laughing at me? I decided to stay back a year online teaching, not going so well. I decided to stay back a year online teaching, not going so well. Or you decide to repeat a grade. Don't mind me asking, what's your capital of your country? All right. Where are the Jamaicans? All right, so there's a Jamaican answering. The capital of our country is Kingston. Ask whatever question you want to ask. This is a cultural exchange. We have live on Friday again at 5. Tanisha, to Otisha, sorry. Why sorry? What happened? No, that's fine. We're talking to everybody. Juliana Walker, we're there, man, sir. We're there. All right, cool. We're there. All right, so we have 2 persons who are from Guyana, they say. And this is a part of the show where we have a cultural exchange where we are trying to make the world a smaller place. I don't know the age group of these persons. We're just asking simple questions. You want to ask about the country. Probably you want to know what the money is called, what the capital is called, what the population. I don't know. I'm allowing us to ask some questions. Sir, I really want to taste Miss Auntie Dana cake. Lord Jesus, you know Auntie Dana. Oh my, you're better than me. I have seen her on TikTok. I really don't know much about her cake, but probably I have to hook up with that Auntie Dana as a Jamaican and tell her that one of my students in Guyana would like to taste the cake. Reflex, Lord, you keep laughing. Tell me what's happening. Why don't I know or know? That is more than Jamaican, you know, to ask about Auntie Dana cake. That is more than Jamaican. Because I think you have another cake place called Tartula or something like that. And I think they export cakes and all of that. So I don't know. I wish I could hook you up to that, but I don't know. I know Auntie Dana is pretty much in the city where I am. I am from Kingston. I'm in Kingston. Everybody know Auntie Dana lol. I don't know anybody. I am just this person who is hooked up, always doing some little stuff. Sometimes I think I am missing out on the world. You're missing out. My mom watch her 24/7. Mighty Jesus. I don't know. Probably I'm old. Yes. All right. I know them. I know them too. All right. Cool. All right. So yes, we have a whole lot of Jamaican vloggers. We have persons who are doing this. We have persons who are doing that. And I am sort of old-fashioned. So when you guys meet me and you're going to talk to me, I'm going to be asking you all sort of questions. Like those emoji now, I don't know what they mean. So somebody want to tell me, it's your time to teach me, you know. It's your time to teach me, so you keep me young, so that when I come here, I can speak the language. But at Guyana, you plant a lot of rice in Guyana. Is it that the Guyanese eat a lot of rice, or is it that you just export the rice? And Tanisha, yes, you plant a lot of rice and you eat the rice. So if we were supposed to come to Guyana, like how much money would it cost us to come to eat and export? Tanisha, you are always here. Tanisha, you are my good friend. All right. How much would it cost us to come to Guyana and stay? Do we need a visa? I don't know. I don't know. I have never ever left Jamaica. I just leave from Kingston to country and come back. I don't know. You don't know. You never left a country. I don't know. We eat a lot of rice. I don't think you eat more rice than Jamaican. Probably all the rice that you plant there in Guyana, we 200 grand dollar, 200 grand, 200,000 is what? Guyanese are what? Jamaican. 200 grand is Guyanese or Jamaican. Guyanese dollar. How much Guyanese dollar? How much you pay for a US dollar in Guyana? And I am straight patois now because cultural exchange are going to use my language. How much you pay for a US in a Guyana? And somebody who is Jamaican, tell me how much you pay for a US dollar in a Jamaica, because I don't know. I don't spend money, I'm broke. Oh, you need to ask your mom. All right, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But you can also Google it. You could just type in foreign exchange or remittance or something, you could find some app that could tell you. I know, so I'm just drawing you out. All right. As usual, it is really, really wonderful having you guys. I really like the cultural exchange. Some of my students are here. 1,000 US. Okay, not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. What is crime like in your country? Rice is our staple dish. In Jamaica, rice is our staple dish as well. Rice is our staple dish. Yeah, and chicken. Chicken is the protein for us. We eat a whole lot of chicken. Chicken. If you don't have any chicken, probably I'll deal with a Dranko. I'm just joking. All right. So in Jamaica, it's like $150. Leandra Burgess is saying $150 is the exchange rate. All right. That's the exchange rate for Jamaica to US. Leandra Burgess, what's the exchange rate of Guyanese to US? Sir, our food up top. Your food can't up top more than our food. Our food, we have jerk chicken down here. We have jerk rabbit. And we have everything jerk. Even the language we have down here, jerk. You can't get jerk patwa. So if you want jerk patwa, you can get that at Jamaica. In a Jamaica, we jerk everything. And if a boy talk to it too hard in a Jamaica, he get a jerk too. Right? So our thing in a Jamaica up top when it come on to we do a lot of jerk. Tanisha, ever heard of pepper pot? But me hear about pepper pot coming out of Trinidad. Where are my Trinidad friends? Pepper pot come out of Trinidad. Yeah, me hear about pepper pot. But we cook on something in a Jamaica named pepper pot, you know. Let me tell you about our pepper pot stuff. We have a plant in a Jamaica we call cocoa, or we call dasheen. We cut out the young leaf out of the midlights, and they sort of tie it up with banana string or something like that. And then they boil it and then they beat it up with a spoon and they put pepper and it makes a nice soup. Only older folks in Jamaica would actually cook pepper pot. But what is your pepper pot like in Guyana? We are in the cultural exchange. This is CSEC Biology, the cover page, where we try to make the world a very small place. If we know everyone, then we'll have less fuss, we'll have less quarrel, we'll definitely have more smile. So now we're looking at what is life like in Guyana versus Jamaica. You guys don't know any singers from Jamaica? Oh, the Jamaican asking if you know. They're going to tell you Bob Marley. I bet you they're going to say Bob Marley. Lol. Yeah, man. Yes, Tanisha. Lol. Somebody a laugh, Gray a laugh. Come there. Me go come there. All right. You guys don't know any singer from Jamaica. Pepper pot is our thing. Yo, in a Jamaica now, when you come on to soup, a whole heap of soup we have. We have cow cod soup, which we think is an aphrodisiac. We have conch soup, which we think is an aphrodisiac. We have what do you call it? Goat soup or something like that. I not even know what it is. Manish water. That is another big one. We have, like every roadside on the weekend, you can find like a pot of super bubble, and you might have chicken foot night and you might have beef night, but that is a big thing in our country. Mixture of meat, pepper pot mixture of meat, exchange rate. Okay, my friends are giving me the exchange rate. So Leandra is doing the maths for us. All right, so we have beef, cow eel. What name cow eel, Tanisha? You know, but see Jesus. You know cartel. My. When they ask if you know any singer in Jamaica, you should tell them Mr. Wilson, because me can sing too. All right, Tanisha, no, it's 200 exchange rate. Bop. All right, some people up. Cartel. Oh, Juliana Walker, cartel, I hear thing. Up top, brother. Yellow man. Yeah, historian. Yellow man a long time something, but enough respect to Yellow man. He has actually brought dancehall a far way. Cartel would have taken up from somebody, probably from Bounty Killer and Beanie Man. But Yellow man was there long ago. Yeah, Yellow man is there. Cartel is there. I don't even know who is there now. I think you have the 6 box. You have to ask the younger folks in the room. Juliana Walker, who is that young DJ now to Yellow man? Which are the DJ are the road now? Sir, I don't know. You don't know Yellow Man? Yellow Man are the man we used to do all of the slack DJs, the slack songs when I was a little boy. Theme song them slacks so till them want tighten with spanner. Right? But it was something that he had a market for it and it went well. Daddy One. So Daddy One is the DJ in Jamaica now. I don't even know who named Daddy One and I live in Jamaica. All right. Buju Adu Road now. Oh, Buju have some nomination for Grammy Award, but on a Buju Adu Road, a coffee. Coffee, I get all the endorsement. So coffee have Midas endorsement. Coffee have Malta endorsement. Coffee is now the Jordan ambassador, right? Spice is there, coffee is there. Juliana Walker is updating. Guys, my Guyanese friend asked Juliana Walker. She's young and on the road. I am old, man. I just know a little bit of biology. All right, Shen says up there, she says as well. Who else is up there? All right, we're in the cultural exchange. This is CSEC Biology, the cover page. We would have covered content, and at the end of the class, we tend to do the cultural exchange where we have a chat with persons from different Caribbean islands. It's not just about academics. We tend to have a little bit of fun. What is the bus system like in Guyana? Everybody own a car. You have to take the public transportation system. Do you swipe your car? Do you pay bus fare? What is it like in Guyana? Minibus to Jamaica, one driver and then the conductor. Okay, so we have a lot of taxi as well. You have bike taxi in Guyana? We have bike taxis in Jamaica, in the deep rural area. Hold on, Adi Plus is saying Amari. Amari is not Jamaican. Amari is American, brother. Amari is American. Amari is American. All right. Rena Knight. You guys not laughing at Amari. Cut that out. No. 160. 160 ahead. Jump in and out of the bus. Lol. Oh. 160. We have different. I don't even know what is the price to travel on a bus. Juliana Walker, what is the price to travel on a bus in Jamaica? We have yellow bus. Yeah, in Jamaica and Kingston, we have the bus that we call yellow bus, Chichi bus. Those are the state-owned bus. They have 3-seater. Oh, we have 3-seater. That's a different type of car. Rain and night, $50. Bill, sir. So you want to go up on a bus, you take $100. You have $160 in a Guyana. We have $50 taxi and $100 taxi. Tanisha, depends on where you are going. Rain and night, 100%, $100, $200. 150. It depends on where you are in the island. The fare might be different. Is there anything else my Guyanese friends want to ask my Jamaicans? We want to wrap you up and send you off as I go prepare for my videos and other shows. Please invite more Guyanese to join us. Please invite more Guyanese to join us. And of course, we need to have a quiz one of these days with Jamaica versus Guyana, the school challenge way. No bias thing, you know that Mr. Wilson can't be biased. I do have a side that I let down my shoulder, but of course, 200. Okay, so in Jamaica, in some places in Jamaica, if the rain start falling, the fare go up. All right, sir. Don't know who will win. All right, Guyanese, the Jamaicans are saying that they are going to be winning that competition. I won't put my money on anybody. I'll have independent judge. I'll even have other teachers join the chat that day so that I can't be biased. All right. Where she come about? Guyanese, big up yourself. All right, Tanisha, big up yourself. I think we have the Guyanese in the house, big up yourself. The Jamaicans in the house, big up yourself. It is always nice to be here. Please invite others to be here. The platform is growing and growing really, really fast, faster than I actually expected. The 12th of December, we are going to be 3 months, and we are really breaking grounds. Remember, in all our show, we're going to be having this session where we have a cultural exchange. We don't have any Trinidadian here today, but we're going to be having Trinidadian pretty soon. We have the Guyanese who are always here with us, and we're going to be coming next week. Remember, next week you guys have tests. It's a formative assessment. and we're going to be looking at what we would have done this week. So remember that Wednesday tests have nothing to do with the other live. Friday tests have nothing to do with the other live. Sunday test has nothing to do with the other live. They are going based on what we would have done for that particular day. All right, so I'm going to be putting out shortly what we're going to be covering for the live on Friday. Remember to invite your friends from wherever they are. Jamaicans, pull your friends out. Guyanese, pull your friends out. Call some persons from Trinidad, call some persons from all the Caribbean, and let us have fun. Let us learn. Remember to follow your syllabus. Remember, I did prescribe for those persons who have a copy of Anna Tyndale book or who can access Anna Tyndale book. It is a good book. You can treat with it. When I get to know you more, there are some resources that I can give you, and I'll definitely have a meeting over by Zoom where we can see each other and have a big laugh. All right, we're going to have a big social on Zoom with all my fans from the cover page. I have some bags. I don't know how my friends in Guyana, they are going to get our bags. We do have some bags for the cover page. Our friends in Jamaica will have access to them. I don't know, we might have to ship these bags to Guyana because we're really serious about what we do. We have like Tanisha and our other friends in Guyana who are always here with us. We'll definitely have to ship those products to you in Guyana. Yes, sir, it was a good class today. All right, I'm very happy that it was a good class. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And we are going to eat the pudding next week, Wednesday, when I give you that test. Lord, can't wait for Zoom. All right, we're going to build up momentum, and then we are going to treat it. Remember that nobody can fail in my class. If you did not get it right, we do it again until we get it. So we don't ridicule anyone in this class. It's a learning community, and of course, we try to build strength and build on what we have. It was very wonderful having you this evening. It was my pleasure being with you. It is not a paid class. It's a free class for now. All 3 lives. The videos are coming out. Remember to watch the videos from start to finish. Remember to have other persons subscribe. Share the word. Spread the word. Everything will be fine. Sir, thank you. I learned so much. Thank you very much to Atisha. Thank you very much, Tanisha. Thank you very much, my Jamaican quartet. Thank you very, very much for being here. We have to leave now. Guyanese, do you want to say anything before you leave? The last thing from the Guyanese, and then we're going to have a last thing from the Jamaican, and then we're out of here. Guyanese, anything to share? Guyanese, anything? All right, Jamaican, is there anything that you want to share before we leave? It doesn't have to be about the lesson. I recapped the lesson already. Anything else to share? All right, so if there is nothing else to share, do have yourselves a safe evening. Remember to study. We can't study enough. We are competing for the same pie. CXC is coming up whether we like it or not. And I want to ensure that all my students are successful in the exam. So I did recommend Anna Tyndale book. Try it and try the resources that I am providing. Have yourselves a good night, as Juliana Walker would have said. Bye-bye.